Hi, everyone. You're listening to Lead Surge AI's podcast, the show where we sit down with real estate wholesalers who are actually doing deals and building real businesses. No gurus, no fluff. Just real talk about what's working, what's broken, and how they're getting from cold lead to closed deal. So I'm your host, Edmund Chung, founder of Lead Surge AI, where we help real estate wholesalers, investors scale their deal flow with lead generation, AI-powered follow-ups, and CRM systems that don't suck. Today we have Joel Morris, a wholesaler out of Central Florida, who's been doing six figures in Florida, in Georgia, and North Carolina. We're diving into how they got started, how they generate and manage leads, and the systems behind the scenes that keep it all moving. Let's get into it. Thanks for joining us today. So what got you into real estate wholesaling in the first place?
Yeah, man. So, I've kind of spent the last half decade really just learning and steeping myself in different acquisition strategies. And so, I've learned it all like fix and flip, burr method, tax liens, deeds, subject to creative finance, wholesale, right? The whole thing. And what I noticed is like most of these deals are great, but really if you want to generate higher cash flow, you're not going to make a ton of money owning a single family home that generates 300 bucks a month, right? And so buying and holding real estate keeps you wealthy long term, 100%. But if you're looking to get wealthy soon and be able to leverage capital to be able to get into those larger deals that are going to make you more money, you got to come up with active income. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I looked at fix and flipping and wholesaling, and it was just a no-brainer for me to just go the wholesale route. There's less risk to reward than in a fix and flip model. Yes, fix and flips can yield larger spreads, but you're also in it for a longer time frame, and then you're also adopting inherent risk to go along with it. Unless you have an absolute A team that can just sit there and get a deal done and get in and get out really quickly, and they're all trustworthy, you really have to have that system honed in. And so I felt that wholesaling is just a easier route to go, and it also helps you analyze deals and chop up deals so you understand how the deal is actually structured, and you can carry that into any deal that you go into the future in real estate.
Yeah, I guess wholesaling is one of the exit strategies, right? And it's just one of the easier ones where you can bring in cash flow
Yep.
quicker than the other ones where like the other ones you have to put some work into it or you have to hold it or yeah, like it's a great strategy. It could get like intensive, right? At the
Yeah.
beginning for it to go super quick, but that's part of the game, right? It's speed to deal. You want to close it quickly, get that money, and then put it into your next one.
Mhm.
So what was your first deal like? Do you remember how it went down?
Yeah, my first deal, I'm pretty sure I lost my contract. I didn't
Okay.
underwrite it properly, and so the contract didn't end up closing. I was just excited to get a contract though, and so what it really taught me was I needed to hone in my skills on acquisitions and also hone in my skills on negotiating to making sure I'm actually underwriting properly and getting an actual deal, right? And so what ended up
Mhm.
happening is I just lost the deal, and I ended up, I think I lost a couple $100 on EMD, and yeah, that was it. It went to nothing. And so it was great because it was like it shows you like, oh, this can be done, but
Mhm.
it has to be done right. That's
Of
the thing. It
course.
has to
Yeah.
be done right. You have to be really on point with the underwriting, and you got to be able to then negotiate based off of your MAO and all these other things that we use to calculate what we can do, right? And the cool thing is since then I started learning more about creative finance and a couple other strategies, and it just broadened my scope on being able to wholesale different types of deals. And so before I would normally pass up on a certain type of deal, now I can actually analyze and still give an offer and take it to close, right? Going from my first deal to that, I learned a lot, and you learn a lot by doing. Everybody, I think, wants to just continue to, oh, I just need to learn more. I just need to learn more. Yes, you got to understand the basics, but like just get some skin in the game. You're gonna learn a lot more by doing that than reading and watching a bunch of YouTube videos for hours on end.
Yeah. I guess a lot of people have like when you're starting off, you don't really know where to start from. So you're just like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm not sure. I feel like I need to learn this or that first, and then they never really start. But yeah,
yeah.
I think it's helpful if you have people or surrounding you that are doing it, so then you can kind of understand where to start.
Hmm.
But then yeah, just jump in and imperfect action a little bit every single day, right? And
Yeah,
then just grow from there. Was when was the moment where you were like, yeah, I can really do this as a business, you know?
yeah. I think for me it was actually closing my first deal. My first deal was like a $78,000 spread. It was a creative finance deal I wholesaled, and for me
Wait,
I
did
was
I hear
like
you correctly? 70,000?
78,000. It's a $78,000
70,000.
wholesale fee. Yeah, and
That is
so for
crazy.
me, I was like, dang, you can make money. Now I know this wasn't the average, right? The average is closer. We average from closer to 14 to 20K is what we're
Hmm.
tacking on commission, um, but I knew that I was like, okay, there can be money here. And so for
Yeah.
me, I actually just leveraged most of that to start getting my systems and processes in place. I have my business partner who lives in Florida.
Yeah.
He's really good with integrations and automations and things like that. So he helps kind of
Nice.
with the operation side of things. Whereas like I'm just like vision, right? Like how do we build
Hmm.
this up? How do we scale? Who do I need to connect with? How do I keep appointment setting? And how do I keep closing more deals so we can keep this thing going? And so
Yeah.
we were able to divide and conquer our roles like that. And then from there, I leveraged most of that money just to onboard a VA team, get our systems and automation set up properly, and that way
Hmm.
I can focus on more high quality leads and hot leads rather than being a cold caller the entire time.
Right. You kind of spoke about it. What's your current sales process right now?
Yep. So we have a VA cold caller, not cold caller. We have a VA that does data scraping for all of the counties that we operate in. They
Okay.
just scrape straight from the county. They sort our lists and they filter our list and then they upload it for skip tracing. And then from there, I have cold callers who call that list and then they convert to warm leads. And then our lead managers will then warm up those leads. And when a lead is ready to close, they'll set an appointment with me. And I've also trained our lead managers to do some basic underwriting, both in cash and creative. So they'll kind of do the preliminary underwriting for me, and then I'll just double check their work to make sure they're accurate, make any
Cool.
adjustments I need, and then I hop on the appointments, and we either get a contract or we don't.
Okay, cool. So there's still a lot of outbound marketing that you're doing here.
Yeah, it's
Um,
primarily we primarily do outbound.
okay, so what are the systems on top of this outbound marketing that you're using day to day? Like, yes,
Yep.
you have like your VAs, your lead managers. What are the systems, I guess, with your business partner that you guys are using in the back end?
Yeah, so we'll go. Most of our cold callers will use a multi-line dialer from Call Tools, which is what we use, and so
Okay.
we help track all their data metrics through Call Tools. And then we have API integrated to our Go High Level platform on the back
Okay.
end for our lead managers and myself to kind of follow up, take notes, text, email, whatever we got to do to get in contact with a seller. And then we'll have automations built out on certain follow up sequences. So if it's like a warm lead or a cold lead needing some nurturing, we'll have some automations built up and then
Hmm.
when there's a response, our lead managers pick up those responses and then, engage those conversations. And then we're kind of playing a waiting game, right? As we know, like the you're usually making calls right now for next quarter, right? So the calls
Yeah.
that you're making now and the leads you're getting now typically don't come to fruition until the next quarter, right? And so essentially, what we're doing is we're closing deals that we warmed up from 3 months ago, right? That's typically the
Yeah.
cycle of that. And so yeah, we're constantly engaging new leads and then following up and setting appointments and closing on leads that we've, you know, tackled the previous months.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. It takes some like lead
Yeah,
time to
it's
get
like
to closing. Yeah.
3 months. 3 months buffer is usually right around the
Yeah.
time from the time you first have a call to the time that you're actually, locking up the contract and going to close
Yeah.
is around 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, sometimes you need to give them a little bit convincing, even though they're in
Mm-hmm.
like a really distressed situation, but they don't really understand that they are.
Yep.
So yeah,
Build
that's
rapport.
great.
That's
Yeah,
important. Yeah.
of course. Yeah, we're here to like help people out. Like mostly, I think you target mostly distressed sellers. I'm sure.
Distressed sellers, but we also leverage creative finance. So like that
Mhm.
$78,000 spread, that was actually like a mansion home.
Okay.
So I mean, I could do that too as well. It just depends on what fits the criteria of that seller's motivation and or the
Yeah.
property condition, right? And so
Yeah.
the more tools you have in your belt, so to speak, the more offers you can make. So for me, I can make 7 different types of offer on any given property.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
great.
anybody who just knows how to only do cash can only do a cash offer or maybe
Hmm.
novation,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, it just
Super
depends on
important.
on, on, on your skill level and the strategies you know how to exit from and how that looks like when you break it down. So like for me, I kind of have like a list I go through, right? I go cash
Hmm.
offer, novation. If it's not novation, I'll go creative. So that's either subject to hybrid or seller finance. If it's seller finance, we might do a wrap or a sandwich lease option on the back end. And then also if that doesn't work, then I'll just go and refer to an agent that I trust in the area and then kick a 1%, 1.5% on the back end if they go to close.
That's awesome. Yeah, always having that tool that's super important.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah,
choose
man.
whichever one you want to do. Yeah. So in the last 12 months, how many deals have you closed then with your team?
Great question. I don't have that KPI in front of me, but let's just say we're getting what 3 to 4 contracts, 5 contracts a month. Times that by 12. My math is
50,
horrible.
60. 50,
Disposition
60
is
deals
usually
as well?
runs around usually between like a 70%
Okay.
disposition close. So take about 70% of that. That's probably your final number there. I don't have that number right here in front of me though. I'll even full disclosure, even this last week and adjusting team size, right? Like I was fully expecting to get more contracts when I, had a larger team. And it was just
Hmm.
like I'm actually just bleeding more money. So and I didn't close more contracts because when you trust people to take over certain parts of your operation and they don't perform, you're gonna lose those contracts. I've had months where I'm like, I closed
Okay.
one deal and I'm like, I had 6 contracts. How do I close one deal, right? And it's horrible. And you're like, now you got to make an adjustment and you got to,
Yeah.
re-come back to the picture. So full disclosure, I mean, I just started this about a year ago too, though. Actually, just wholesaling with my business partner. So a lot of learning lessons from a business
That's great
standpoint
though.
to really get to this point, and we're hoping to keep learning more lessons as we go. That's the
Of
only way you're
course.
going to really continue to be better.
And also, it's the jurisdictions, like all the legislation
Yep.
changes and stuff like that. You have to keep up with what's happening in the market. And then right now, the market's different. And also, depending on where you're wholesaling or doing your real estate investing, it also changes how you approach the different sellers and like how
Yep.
you use different strategies. What types of deals are you doing mostly these days?
So we kind of go through an operation of like, sometimes it might be a property that's super distressed. Obviously, that we're going cash, right? And that's one
Hmm.
strategy. If it's a property that is not distressed, like it's a low equity home that's trying to sell, maybe the person have to move really quickly. You see this a lot in like military towns, military personnel. You get orders to another station. You already bought a house because you have a wife and 3 kids. Now you move to
Yeah.
another state. Now you have 2 mortgages. You're on a fixed income. You just bought your house last year. Chances are you're probably going to write a check to try to sell your home. So we might do like creative finance where we simply just take over the mortgage subject to, and then from there I can wholesale a subject to contract, right?
Hmm.
You just got to know what your end buyer is. So like on a cash or
Right.
novation, I know my end buyer is probably going to be like a fix and flipper or something along those lines. But on a creative finance, my end buyer is actually more of a buy and hold investor. So I just got to make sure, does cash flow make sense? Are we not negotiating horrible terms that's going to make them pay some astronomical balloon in 2 years? And then also, are we actually able to get a decent down payment that's not going to cost an arm and a leg, right? So those are the terms that we're negotiating, and as long as we can get those at market of what investors are looking for, you can get a great deal. Tack on your wholesale fee included into that whole price, and then you can still move a deal very easily.
And of course, you have to have your buyer ready for you before you get that,
Of
before you
course,
get those deals. So then you can just pass it on super
yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, make sure you have the network in place, right? Make sure you know what
Yeah.
buyers are looking for. Make sure you're communicating with buyers in your network who are actually picking up the type of deals that you're pushing. Like for example, if like I can get a lease option or a sandwich lease option or a wrap deal, but if I don't know any wrap buyers, I'm still gonna have a hard time dispositioning it, right?
Mhm.
You could be a creative finance person, but if you don't know anybody who's doing creative finance, it's gonna be kind of hard to disposition it. Same thing with your fix and flippers. You can get a great contract, but if you do no networking with any of the fix and flippers in that market, you're going to be like struggling to disposition. And I think that's what a lot of people get confused is like they just told, get a good contract. If you get a good contract, a buyer will come. It's like, no,
Mhm.
that's not always the case. I've had great contracts fail because I didn't know the right person to
Yeah,
get the contract across the table, right? And so, yeah, it's about connecting with the disposition side
exactly.
of the house too and understanding what buyers are looking for.
For sure. Yeah, like understanding where your buyer, their buy boxes, what those look like, and then making sure you connect those deals with those end buyers. So you were mentioning that you had like the team with the cold calling. What other channels are you playing with right now? And if tried different channels, like maybe some inbound marketing as well,
Yeah.
what has worked for you and what hasn't worked for you?
You know what my mentors have seen? So I'm in a bunch of different communities. One of our business mentors is Cody Barton. He's Pace Morby's
Right.
business partner. I was just on a call with David Choi, Eric Klein, obviously in Pace Morby's community. So I've really
Hmm.
networked and got the chance to look at a lot of like elite, high level people doing crazy great things. And
Of
what I've
course.
noticed is that they get good at doing one thing really well first before they start diversifying to other channels. And they will diversify eventually, but they hammer down on like one process and get that one process to make them multi-millions of dollars a year. And then they say, okay, now let's go start messing around with direct mail. Let's start go messing around with other things. Let's start messing around with other marketing channels. And so, actually, Cody Barton was one of the guys who told me this. He was like, "Look, if I were you, I would just focus and do. If you want to do cold calling outbound, get really good and just hone in your process for cold calling outbound. Because what ends up happening is, you know, any one of these marketing channels could work,
Hmm.
but the issue is you really gotta hone in and get a good process for that one first.
Right.
And the issue that most wholesalers are doing is like, well, let me just do a little PPL or PPC. Let me just do a little bit outbound. Let me do some ad campaigning and see if I get some inbound. Let me do a little bit direct mail. And they just do a little bit of everything and it yields not really good results. And what ends up happening, it costs a lot of money to do that. And they've never refined any specific process. So they end up dishing out a lot of money with low returns and sometimes they lose money. If not, sometimes they barely make their money back, right? And
Yeah.
so like
Well.
cool, you did like 50K of revenue this month, but like if it cost you 50K to go and do that revenue, did you really make anything? No, not really, right? We're
Hmm.
trying to take some money home in our pocket so we can go invest in other deals as well too, right? So there has to be some sort of system and process that you put in place and get really good at first before you can actually
Yeah.
start leveraging marketing capital, right? So like, hey, if I'm doing really good, now I can take 20% or 10%, whatever I want to save up to the side and say, this is my experimental money to see what other marketing sources I want to go tackle. And then
For
you're
sure.
okay with losing that money because you've already put money aside specifically for that reason to go test
Hmm.
before you bring into production, right? So yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing. I think for me, I'm still, just full disclosure, I'm still trying to hone in the whole process of outbound calling, really dial these in and really make
Hmm.
sure my KPIs, my systems, my tracking is getting better. And this is why I'm networking with all these other high-level business owners because I want to see how they're doing it and then how can
Right.
I
For
take
sure.
what they're doing and implement something maybe on a smaller scale, and that's how I help build, right? So that's the goal.
Yeah. Of course. You were talking about some KPIs. What would you say is like your numbers from getting like one lead into turning it to like a deal? Like what's that like ratio, would you say
Yeah,
right
man, I
now?
wish I would have just brought my KPI calculator out right now. But literally, so for leads, I forget how many it's a week, but essentially from our leads, typically we can convert. If we get 100 leads, we should probably be getting at least. I think it's 30 or is it 100? I think it's for 100, we should be getting at least like 4 or 5 contracts signed, like ready to
Sign.
go.
Okay.
So like leads, I mean like warm leads in our
Cool.
system we're following up
Cool.
with. They convert to hot leads. Those hot leads get appointments. Of those appointments, I then go to close. Right.
Hmm.
Inevitably, a warm lead sometimes turns cold, or sometimes you're too slow to the game. Somebody else is competing with you, or they just are asking for too much at the end. Those are the things you got to really identify, right? But typically, if we can get 60 to 100 leads, we're getting our what we're getting at right now. Like our range is like 3 to 6.
Okay,
So
that's pretty
it
good.
just depends. Also, quality of lead too, right? Like if you're like
Hmm.
the 20th person who's contacted this person this week, like it's going to be much harder to lock in that contract. And so that's why also it's about narrowing down lists and kind of getting more niche with your lists that you're pulling. Everybody's pulling pre-foreclosure. So if you get a
Hmm.
pre-foreclosure, you're going to have some competition, and so you're banking
Yeah.
on the stress of the owner to get that deal across the table to make something that works for them. But if you're caller number 12, number 20, like you just know you're going to have a little bit harder time moving across the table because your deal is not going to stick out as much. Everybody's coming around, if they're doing the numbers correct, everybody's coming in around the same range, right?
Hmm.
So it makes it a little bit more difficult. At that point in time, it's who can deliver quickest and who can build the rapport better.
Right. Okay, so let's say a motivated seller reaches out. Like, how would you handle that from first contact and all the way to close? Like, what's the step to step?
Yeah. So first step, lead comes to our pipeline. Our cold caller calls them. They get the 4 pillars. They make sure there's motivation, make sure there's timeline there, make sure the person's actually interested in selling. Also, like something you don't know, like sometimes it's the wrong number. Like, is the data even correct?
Hmm.
Right? Like, are we
Right.
calling the
Just
right
get
person?
curious.
And
Yeah.
when I call Joe Smithy, is Joe Smithy actually answering the phone, or is it some random person who doesn't even know? Right? Is the
Hmm.
data correct? Did they say, "Oh, I sold my house 6 months ago"? Right? And so you're
Right.
tracking through that. So the cold callers is identifying all those things. They're identifying a want to sell the house, motivation, and qualifying the property, whether or not the condition is something that would be looking at. Then a lead manager is going, and what the lead manager really does is they start picking up a call, and usually they have like maybe 2 or 3 conversations with the person before it turns kind of hot, quote unquote. But what they're doing is they're digging deeper, like deeper into the motivation, deeper on what's going what's going behind the scenes, either from a financial and emotional stressor that seller is going through, And then
Hmm.
we're taking notes, right? We're documenting
Great.
this is what the seller's going through. This is why they need this number, or this is the condition of the home. This is their timeline. And then when we're, about 30, 90 days before close, then they'll get in contact with us, and then we can go lock up a contract, because typically we want to keep our contracts 30 days and under. But there are times where we can extend to 60 days or something like that if the seller needs time to move their things. Maybe they're older, they live
Hmm.
out of state, they need to take a flight and help move. So we'll help in that process. But all that's done through the discovery process of lead management, right? So the lead manager is already identifying like what is needed in order to get this deal done, and what is the deeper motivation behind the sell. And then from there, usually I'm only hopping on maybe one or two calls, right? Before we actually get a contract, or I just say, hey, we can't make an offer on your house, and let me point you in the right direction. Right?
So I guess you do the maybe most of the closing at the end. Like you have your cold callers, your VAs, your lead managers, and then they pass it on to you, and you do the closing. I guess.
Yes, yes. And actually, my next part is actually going to be like, how do I? This was actually one of my questions I was talking to David Choi about just an hour ago, and
Okay.
it was like, how do I replace myself in my own business, right? Like you got to have somebody who's an absolute dog when it comes to selling, and is just
Hmm.
hungry for like getting after it, right? And so I love hopping on calls. I love helping sellers and trying to find a solution for sellers.
Great.
But at some point in time, you start coming to a crossroad where it's like, all right, how do I start working on my business and not in my business? Because if I left right now, we'd be getting no contracts coming in, right? So
Hmm.
like, how do I make sure I can still cover down on that and keep the business running? Therefore, I can start focusing on a higher level, like vision planning of, all right, what does year 2, 3, 4, 5 look like, and
Right.
where's that aligned to my vision and my goals, right? So that's an interesting process I'm currently going through, brother. It's a very exciting time, but at the same time, it's a little bit stressful, but it's business, man. You can't.
Yeah.
What do you expect, right?
Yeah. Well, like it's learning the processes and putting the system in place,
Hmm.
and like that's kind of what I'm gonna ask next. Actually, is like, are you losing any deals in like the process there
Oh
because
yeah,
maybe there's like
yeah, dude.
no following up or.
I've lost deals plenty of times, right? And for me, that's actually why when I started kind of scaling a team a little too much, I kind of took the back seat and was like, all right, let me train
Mhm.
some acquisitions people and get a disposition team. Try to get a disposition team stood up, and like the acquisitions weren't producing as much as I wanted, but it was still enough to still justify. All right, we get a couple contracts closed, we're good, right? We could still keep them on board, and all that stuff is all fine and dandy. But then when it comes to disposition, which honestly I feel like a lot of people sleep on how important disposition is, it's a whole nother side of the sales house. You
Right.
can get a million contracts in. If none of them close, you made $0,
Right.
right? And
Yeah. You
so
have
on
to
our
connect
disposition
them.
side, I was just noticing like we aren't closing anything. Like I'm tossing you 5 contracts and only one of them closed, or something along those lines. And I'm like, this is not a good ratio conversion. And so the first month, I'm like, okay, we're training people, we're getting people up to speed. Let's give like 30 days to like see if they can learn from that and get the processes down. And so like by month 2, I was like, all right, got a couple closed, but we don't know. And then by the third month, I was like, no, got to pull the plug on this. So then I have to insert myself back into the acquisition seat. And the reality of it is just like not everybody is built for it. If you've
Hmm.
talked to anybody who's wholesale, like you have to have an attitude for wholesaling. You have to be a salesperson. You have to be able to get into the weeds and solve problems and be hungry for it. And if you're not, like it's not the route for you, right? That's fine. Like there's other ways you could still get into real estate and invest. Go raise money, go raise capital, be a connector, do things like that, right? That's totally
Hmm.
fine. But for acquisitions and wholesaling, you have to be hungry for it, and you have to be like hitting your metrics. And it's hard to find somebody like that. They're a dime a dozen. And when you do
Yeah.
find people like that, typically they're already on somebody else's team. So it's like,
Yeah. It's tough.
man, it's a challenge. It's definitely a
Yeah.
challenge, the hiring process of that.
Yeah. Always finding the right people is always tough these days.
Finding the A
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for the A team, right? So it's like it's tough. It's tough. I'm still looking for an A team, right? So I'm currently in that process. It's very difficult.
So, if I'm hearing correctly, you're saying disposition was like kind of the bottleneck, or the acquisition side was the bottleneck,
Yeah,
or
I would say a little bit of both. If
okay,
I can do just as good as the both of the acquisitions people I had on the team at the same time, and I could do that alone, to me, I feel like what are we doing? You know what I mean? Because I'm paying two people for the price of something I could do myself, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
disposition is also another beast in itself, right? So I learned very quickly. For right now, my method is just to outsource disposition, go JV with people on and dispose side, people with investor
Okay.
lift or people running their own disposition process altogether. And so I'll let them take their fee, whatever, add on their fee, whatever it may be. But that way I can just focus purely on getting more contracts. And I don't have to worry
Right.
about, okay, I got 5 contracts I got to balance and I got to go connect with 100 people per contract and go negotiate with all these buyers on these different contracts under a
Mm-hmm.
timeline that got to go bring to close. It's a lot that goes behind it, right? And then coordinating title and TC work and all this other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I'm like, it's just dividing my attention away from what I'm good at, which I'm better at hopping on phones and locking up contracts. So like I should be dedicating more time there. And
For
then
the acquisition
when
side,
we're
yeah.
ready, and if we want to do an in-house disposition, or maybe we just JV with people and just keep it flowing that way,
Mm-hmm.
we'll come to that crossroads. But since we just made that transition of downsizing our team, I mean, quite frankly, this next couple months, I'm just like get contracts in, get things closed, build up my 6 months reserve, and then hire somebody the right way to hopefully then start overseeing acquisitions again. And so that's kind of the goal for me. But yeah, I mean, when we downsized our team, immediately we got like 5 contracts in within 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
to me, I'm like, even if two of them fail, we still got three in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like that was more than what both acquisitions were doing in 2 months. So like it's a no brainer to me. It's a no brainer at all. Uh,
So kind of like that team was actually like a little bit of a bottleneck for you. Like
yeah,
something
yeah,
wasn't
and,
as
and and it's
efficient and
crazy
effective.
because Edmund, you think you get a bigger team? Oh, we're about to
Yeah.
start doing it, right? And it's not always that case. And this is part of like just growing as a business. These are
And
business
learning,
lessons
yeah.
that you have to learn,
Yeah.
right? And I'm glad I learned it, and I learned from it early on versus like waiting forever. And then I'm bled dry, and then I got to drop out the game for a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
I'm glad I have a business partner who holds it down with me as well. We served with each
It's
other in
good,
the
yeah.
military, so like we've been through ups and downs and been through it. And so yeah, him and I just have each other's back, and that's also important. Like doing it alone, 100% alone,
It's really important.
that's very tough. You look at most of the big
Yeah.
players out there, all of them have a business partner that complements them well. And the business partner is not the same type of person they are. My business partner
Yeah, yeah.
John, him and I are not the same type of personalities, right? Like I love going on phone calls and appointments and setting up and closing. He'd
Mm-hmm.
prefer to be like on the back end, streamlining SOPs,
Right.
helping with hiring processes, automating stuff on the back end, setting up things for us to be more efficient, tracking things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's just as important because I'm not like that at all. Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like you ask me to go configure a KPI and go pull reports. I'm like, what? Like I don't know. Like so.
Yeah.
It's important that you find people that complement you. That
Of
way, you
course.
guys can separate roles and divide and conquer essentially, right? And so that's been extremely helpful.
So you just cut down your team and it's growing, it's being more efficient, more effective. Do you have any other thoughts on ways your business could grow faster?
One thing too that a lot of people sleep on is building your personal brand, building your own network
Of
of
course. Yeah.
people. And for me, I've been so MI like for 5 years. I've just been like living under a rock, put my head down, work, just
Mm-hmm.
work, right? And doing things like this is actually so cool. And this is why I was actually interested in taking this with you, is because it's like lately, I'm like a lot of opportunities will come your way if you just simply are in front of people's faces,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And so for me, I just been like behind the scenes work, make calls, get contracts, let's set this up, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But another big piece of this is like you should also be setting some time away, especially if you're a business owner, to get in front of people's eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can probably solve a lot of people's problems and help a lot of people along the way, which is really what I do. I
Yeah.
actually want to get more away from taking the phone calls myself, have that set up itself, and then now just help people do that themselves, help people learn how to make multiple offers, and then help do deals with people and start building portfolios and helping people do that type of stuff, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that if I'm like living under a rock and just working, right? So the part of that process is like also document things along the way because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the things that you're solving for are questions others are asking already,
Of course,
right?
of course.
And
Yeah.
so if you can be part of that solution, more opportunities and more people are naturally going to gravitate towards you, and then you can it like compounds itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another way to do more business. So now you can generate a lot more income through JVing with people because you're just simply out there helping people out left and right to get a deal done,
Yeah.
double checking their work, helping them underwrite, helping them negotiate, showing them processes, right? And I think that's where a lot of the value that I actually really enjoy, and I've started recently enjoying a lot more, is like just collaborating with people, teaching people how to do certain things, and just like helping people out in the community. And I think that's where a lot of people who are owning businesses maybe forget to do that. Like you helping other people yields a lot of results in return that you may not understand or even know of until you start to do it.
Yeah, and like you build a name for yourself because
Mm-hmm.
you're being a go-giver in the community. And even though you're just a little bit over a year in wholesaling, you're at least 1 year more than some new person who just
Yeah.
started in wholesaling and wants to get in the game.
Yeah.
And from our interview today, like you really know your stuff already. Like you're really deep
Thanks,
into
man.
it and you're making some good deals happen for you and your team. Great. So where can people connect with you or your team to learn more about your deals?
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm on Facebook, Joel Morris. My Instagram is it's Joel Morris, and also YouTube is it's Joel Morris, all the same handle
Okay.
tag. So definitely reach out if you guys need me to help underwrite deals, chop it up with you on market strategies, just kind of show you how I underwrite or show you how I get deals done. Hop on calls with you. Let me know. Yeah, I'm here.
Great. And one last thing, any advice you give to someone who just is starting wholesaling today in today's market?
In today's market, yeah. I would say for any beginner, newbie wholesaler, team up with somebody who's done this before. Your learning curve is going to be much quicker. And then when you get your first 1 to 3 to 5 deals, depending on your spread, save that money and use it to help build your systems. Don't go spend it on a car. Don't go spend it on stupid stuff. Save it, buy VAs, buy systems, get things working for you so you could stop being a cold caller because that's just a waste of time in my opinion. Like everybody is a cold caller at some point in time. You go through the ringer. I get it. It builds some character, but it's gonna burn you out if you do that alone by yourself the entire time. Go partner up with somebody. Go find somebody you trust. Go find a mentor, somebody to teach you and help you, guide you through the whole process so you're doing it right. Take your first couple, your first couple deals and reinvest it into yourself and building your team and processes. And I think that's probably the best thing you could do. Don't go blow your money because then you're stuck in the rat race of, well, now I need another deal, and you're still the one doing
Mhm.
everything yourself, right? And that's why you see a lot of wholesalers really burn out very quickly because they're wearing all 7 hats themselves. They're the cold caller, they're the lead manager, they're the acquisitions, they're the disposition, they're the, it's too much to do alone.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Thanks for giving us all this insight and your last year in wholesaling and not sugarcoating the grind. If you're a wholesaler looking to level up your lead generation, automate follow-ups, or just stop leaking deals through the cracks, reach out to me at Lead Search AI. We help real estate investors plug into digital ads, SMS chatbots, AI voice tools, and CRM systems that actually make you money. Well, thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.